Mortal Kombat X.
Avid fans.
Before we get into this DLC skimmy that's been sort of, people have been freaking out today. Jeff, first of all, what do you think about Mortal Kombat X in the pantheon of Mortal Kombat games? How is it?
I like it. I think it's something that's, it's really hard to follow up on the last game because the last game is a reboot that is retelling the parts of the story that you care about with the characters you care about. Kind of the last game was just Mortal Kombat's 1 through 3 served at you again, and that's rad. So naturally, anything going past that it's got a really hard act to follow. And they bungled it last time in MK4 and 5 and 7 and 8 and all that other stuff. And Shadow Monks was cool. But they're doing a much better job this time around than they did in like the PS2 and Xbox era with their story in terms of like characters they're creating as new characters and just what they're doing to the fighting and stuff like that. It's derivative of the last game in a lot of ways and like how it plays and stuff like that, but it feels good. The new characters are cool.
I remember you guys had Ed Boon on the show, one of your live shows last year. You talked on the Bombcast later on about how like they're going to bring in all these children of other characters and whatnot.
Yeah.
How does that feed into the story? Like, is it a good story? Should you care about the story in a Mortal Kombat game ultimately?
The story's all right. So there are 8 new characters. 4 are kind of the good guys, and then 4 are kind of bad guys. And the 4 good guys kind of traipse around and are in the right place at the right time. And the bulk of the story, like the bulk of the pivots in the story, kind of seems to hang on those 4 just descendants of old fighters. And towards the end of it, it gets a little like Wesley Crusher for my taste, where they're just like they're doing all the heavy lifting, and you're like, I kind of like Scorpion.
Yeah, right.
Like Cassie Cage is cool, but Scorpion's a crazy hell demon with the mask and the stuff. And so yeah, I like Kenshi's son Takeda, probably the best out of the new characters, or those 4 characters.
From a story perspective or from a fighting perspective?
Both. Okay. Both, yeah. And then Aaron Black, I think, is probably the best new character, like gameplay-wise. I think he's pretty cool.
Yeah. Shifting from the story to the gameplay, the bulk of that game is beating the living shit out of people. How have you been enjoying it, Peter?
Oh, it's good that you asked me that because I don't really care that much about Mortal Kombat's story. And I tried to give this one a shake, didn't love it. But as a fighting game, I do really like it. It has all these sort of layered mechanics that you would hope for that give people sort of nuanced strategies and ways to fight, and it succeeds at that pretty well. Like I haven't noticed any real balance issues or anything like that, and it's fun to play. It's not as stiff in my experience as the last Mortal Kombat game. Yeah. So that's great for me because that was one thing that was always a turnoff, and now I find myself able to kind of get into the flow a little bit easier, even if I haven't already mastered a character. I need to make a point of clarification, though.
Go for it.
Which camera do I have? Which is me? Right here. Last week on the lobby, I said something about gore in Mortal Kombat, wishing that there could have been an option to turn it off. That doesn't mean I don't like the gore. I find it funny. Just want to clarify that right now before you guys jump on me in the comments when the full review goes live in a couple days.
Can you turn off the gore?
No.
Why would you turn off the gore?
Well, I think that there are a lot of things Mortal Kombat offers that are beyond the gore. A great fighting game, and if you want to look at the story mode, you can say this fantastical world that is filled with crazy characters. And maybe some people would be upset at the gore. I'm not going to knock the game for not having an option to turn it off. I think it could benefit from it, but because it doesn't have it, that doesn't detract from that stuff. But if you play the game a lot, right, the only scene where there's like... The only scene outside of fighting where there's like explicit, like really bad gore is a scene where someone's about to be beheaded. The gore always is just sort of like next to everything in this game. It's not part of the universe as much, unless I'm misremembering some things. But yeah, like you don't see stuff like this in the story mode, So it just sort of seems to be...
Yeah, you can't do fatalities in the fights in story mode.
Right.
It doesn't give you the option.
Sure, yeah. So it's all just like tacked on, and that's fine, but... What that says to me is that you could still have this game without that for someone who doesn't want it.
Well, what do you think about the X-rays? I mean, the X-rays are, the ultra moves, basically. They do a lot of damage. And in some cases, those are as violent as a lot of the fatalities.
Oh, I'd say more brutal because you get that sort of, the slowdown and that moment of impact and you hear the person like moan.
It's slowed down, so it's this low pitch. Just
it's so painful. But like, I find this stuff entertaining. Like, yeah, it's shocking, but that's kind of what it is, right? So anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
No worries.
Just because I feel like it could be handled differently doesn't mean I don't like it.
That's what they seem to be showing off. Like, obviously, this is the stuff that looks best in trailers, looks best in gameplay. They were like teasing out all these fatalities and what characters in the game and whatnot. What is the loop of Mortal Kombat? Are you unlocking characters? Are you unlocking the fatalities? Because like in the previous games, like the classic Mortal Kombat thing was always the discovery of like the move sets, the discovery of the fatalities, and in the internet age that doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
So what are you actually doing, Jeff, to like as you're going through the game? Like, what is the new content coming through? Is it just the
Well,
campaign?
I mean, you're playing through the story mode. There are a lot of different ways to play. There are random modifiers you can deploy that's like quick recovery, or you have infinite super meter and the other guy has none, and just like weird stuff like that that you can do to kind of alter the game. But in terms of just like progression, like you've got your character level, you're leveling up and gaining XP. You get your faction level. There's a whole faction meta game where when you first boot it up, you pick one of 5 factions, and all of your stuff contributes to that faction. And then as you level up in that faction, you gain access to faction kills, which are like short fatalities that are all universal. They're not character specific, they're faction specific. And those almost look like old MK fatalities where it's like, I chopped him in half, and then didn't follow it up with like, and then diced him up and drank his blood, So those feel like classic in a weird way. And then you're also earning coins to unlock stuff in the Crypt, which they've had time and time again. This time the Crypt is a little bit crazier. You have an inventory, you find items, and but you're still generally just unlocking like a lot of concept art and music, but also costumes. The motions to do the additional finishers.
Okay.
Like
second
brutalities.
as well.
Yeah,
Brutalities,
yeah, brutalities is the other. That's the other new.
Well, but
finisher.
you also get those awards, right?
Yes, yeah, you can get. You build your
get those
combat card, your background, your titles, and all that other stuff.
Right, like Street Fighter.
Yeah, but those have buffs associated with them. So some
right.
of them you unlock by just like leveling up.
Yeah.
You'll be like, I'm level 50 in my. I am level 50 in the Lin Kuei.
Okay.
Thank you. And so I can get
What
like.
faction did you pick?
White Lotus.
Okay. Yeah. No.
See, I was going to pass judgment, but then I was like, that's not the right thing to do. He's a good guy. I'll respect his choice.
Lin Kuei all day.
Look at you, dumping on me.
Lin Kuei all day.
No, lesson
Lin Kuei all
learned.
day.
Lesson learned.
God damn it. Tay seems
Tay was
Tay
number.
is-
He's not anymore. He was number 1 in the Lin Kuei
Really?
faction. I was number 2.
Wow.
So
Sorry, Tay. Tay's Lin Kuei all day. Well, he's not
yeah,
anymore.
and so yeah, you're leveling up that stuff. But yeah, you're also building. So there are buffs associated with it. So the border you equip on your little like nameplate,
Right.
They can give you additional coins to unlock more stuff in the Crypt. They can give you additional faction XP, or depending on what you equip. So you kind of build those things accordingly to what you're trying to work towards.
At any point did these sort of, you're talking about a lot of unlockables, some are cosmetic, some are you use them in combat, extra fatalities and stuff. At any point does that feel like a legit carrot on a stick to keep playing, or do you basically just need the core motivation to enjoy the combat and want to continue fighting to stay interested?
Well, I don't know. Like Mortal Kombat is one of those games, like because the lore has been so loved by people over the years, and people are drawn in by the fatalities, and then sometimes they find more there to like. I think that's led to a situation where you have a lot of people coming to Mortal Kombat that are not big fighting game players. So
yeah, I'm kind of in that camp actually.
yeah.
Like I've played
So
all
it's
the
like,
modern Mortal Kombat games.
so it's great that they have this big long story mode, and even if it isn't as long or as good as the last one, it's still great that they're doing that because they're kind of providing something for that type of player.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, to stick with it for a real length of time, you're going to want to care about the fighting. You can care about it at multiple levels. You can go try to be in tournaments and try to do all that stuff. Or you can just find a group of friends that are all around the same skill level and enjoy it on that level too. I think it can work kind of across the board there, but yeah, you kind of have to care enough about the fighting to make it last.
Let's talk about the coins for a second. I was talking to you this morning about this. When you guys were playing, it seemed to be like pretty fast. You were getting a lot of coins. You were unlocking stuff in the Crypt. There since has been like a patch come out since people had
A lot of people are talking about this.
It's unverified,
and
yeah.
Okay.
So when we got discs, there was a patch already live on the PS4. So you put it into patches just like any other game would when it has a patch. It hasn't done a hard patch like that since, but there are a lot of numbers and variables that they can adjust without shipping a proper like PS4 level patch.
Well, they told me there was a patch that was rebalancing story mode.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
they said live.
So yes, originally story mode was actually way harder than it is now.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so they can make balance changes on the fly as well. So like the tournament they had last weekend, some people discovered that there's some stuff in there that is out of balance. They can make those balance corrections without having to go through a full patch process and QA and all this other stuff. They can tweak the numbers, ship it out. So it's possible that they could tweak the numbers on how many coins you get out of things.
Yeah, and that's the story right now, is
but
that you get like 1/16 of the coins that you used to get. But it's unverified. Like it's a thing that I'm actually going to go after the lobby, go check out with an unpatched version of the game. Like keep the PS4 offline, see what I can do, and match that up. But the bigger problem is that you earn coins, and these coins you use to spend in the crypt to unlock all these tombs, whatever, that have something behind them, but you don't know what. You really have no way of identifying.
It's the same for everyone, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yes, there will be a fact that says here are the 100 crypts in here that you should actually open because they give you something gameplay relevant.
Right.
And then here's the stuff that's all concept art. Like that's MK9 was the same way.
Yeah.
And so when you play story mode, like they'll give you chunks of coins. Like in the beginning, you do kind of go in there and you can walk around and spend some stuff. Get some new things. When you're in the crypt itself, you find new items that unlock new areas. They'll give you here's 10,000 coins. But all of that doesn't really add up to a lot. When a lot of there are probably 100 or more. 100 I think is an underestimation. These tombs, and some of them are 7,000, 6,000. When there's so many of those, ultimately you get to the point where the game stops holding your hand, and you have to start earning those coins. You really don't earn that many coins by just playing any of the modes, really.
Yeah, which is a big change from MK9. Like clearing the story mode in MK9 gave you enough coins to probably unlock half of the crypt.
Really?
If you were doing it right.
Yeah, so now
because some of them you open up, you get more coins when you open up some of
Yeah.
them. So if you're picking right and know what you're looking for, play through the story mode, you can get everything you want.
And they've been pretty aggressive with their DLC stuff. I remember seeing you playing last week, and there's literally a picture of Goro right there.
It's the main thing on the screen.
That's
is
the filthy stuff.
Purchase Goro.
So the filthy thing is that, if they did do this patch to reduce the number of coins, they're selling unlock the entire crypt for $20.
Right.
Right.
And so
On top of the
beating,
game.
beating story
On top of
mode,
the game.
beating
On top
story
of-
mode allowed
On
me
top
to
of the
unlock
story, on top of the season pass.
Yeah.
beating story mode allowed me to lock less than 10% of what is in the entire crypt.
Oh, wow.
So I would have to play this game ad nauseum to unlock things that I don't really know what they are.
Right.
And when it's a piece of shitty fan art, you feel like a dick. You feel like you've just been screwed with.
Yeah.
And so for them to offer this as kind of an incentive, oh cool, I could just bypass all that. But then you got to factor in okay, well, what if you want the characters that are coming with this game, right?
Right.
You're going to be dropping $50 to, for the 4 characters. There's a few characters in the game that have movesets that have AI that really should be here. Anyway, you have to pay.
Yes, Baraka's in the game, right?
There's a lot of content right now you have to
Yeah.
pay a lot of money for to access, and the game is just out. And that feels really shitty, especially when you're fighting these characters in some sense, and it's well, they're here.
Yeah, Goro was the pre-order bonus and is also theoretically available for sale. When I hit it on the PlayStation 4, it just says push X to purchase Goro right on the character select screen when you try to select him, and it takes you to the store. But the item to buy actually isn't live yet, so you can't buy them. I mean, at least when I checked this morning, maybe it's finally fixed. But so it was just a pre-order bonus. I got a code for it and unlocked Goro. The other problem is on the PS4, I downloaded Goro at home. There's no way to download Goro right now elsewhere. So I came in and tried to download it again.
Nope.
Can't do it.
All right.
You go to the PS4 library, go to hit the Mortal Kombat X thing. It says 2 add-ons. I go in, but it doesn't
shows
actually
the
show the
game
list. It's just the
screen.
game screen, and my add-ons
Right.
no longer show. So I was able to download the Blue Steel Sub-Zero skin that I paid $2 for. Again,
You paid what? $2?
$2.
Great.
But that one's a little. They're putting some of that money into the prize pool for the ESL finals or something like that. It's okay.
it feels
I
a
guess.
little less
Why
dirty?
not? Why
Is that
not?
clear at purchase point?
I don't know if it's in that text or not. They've said it. They've said as much.
Get that samurai pack.
That Samurai Pack only comes with the season pass.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like they could have made it easier for you to feel rewarded for your skill while playing this game, to then enjoy unlocking things in the crypt, rather than making it a slog to the point where you feel you know what, I don't care, I'm just going to pay $20 and feel like a sucker.
And I'm never going to do that. That's something that you can, there will be a fact that says here's where the stuff that you should care about in the crypt is, and you should just take that route and unlock what you need to unlock. To me, the kind of sad part about all this, games get over monetized. I actually like this game, and it's over monetized in a weird way. And for me, the spiritual kind of crushing thing is the easy fatalities.
Right, yeah.
So that's something you find some of them in the crypt, and they're consumable items that let you just. They actually, it's the dev controls. You would hold block and hit triangle to do a fatality,
or to square,
or
something,
square to do a fatality. And when the game was in development, that's just how it was.
Yeah.
And that's been like that, I think, in previous games
really?
as well, where it's just they have easy fatalities on during development, so that they can show it at E3 and quickly show people fatalities and all that sort of stuff. So every time I played the game prior to release, that was how you did the fatalities. And now they're in there as a consumable item, not only as things you find in the crypt, because whatever. if you find them in the game, like you don't need to do it. But then
Use like tokens for them or something.
yeah, they will sell them to you. You can buy 30 for $5. You can, So the game has consumables
for a mechanic that you can just
do.
Yeah, that like presumably in like an action replay or something would have unlocked in the past.
Well,
or that would have been a cheat code in the game previously.
And it's different than just like additional content, right? This is actually something that they're providing you, and then essentially keeping guarded.
Yeah.
Right? And then you don't come across them very often in the game, so you kind of get that taste. And I mean, what the hell?
The fatalities are not that difficult to do.
They're
so
not.
it's a situation where it's like you don't really get a taste. Right. Like I used one and went like,
No, but I mean like they give them to you, right? Like so people who maybe would appreciate them,
right? Yeah.
Like they have that option, but then it's sort of taken away because they
you only get like 8 or whatever.
I mean. Why is it that the game has to do that to you? Why can't you just have the option anytime if that's the way you want to do your fatalities?
And it's like, if I can just go full on old man here for a second.
Go for it. I'd love it.
We used to just pass scraps of paper, scrawled fatalities and stuff back and forth at an arcade. Like you'd print stuff out. Eventually, like the internet became enough of a thing that it's like, I was like skipping school to print out supposed lists of fatalities and go to the pizza place and see which ones worked and which ones didn't, and then report back and go, nah, these are all fake. And then strategy guides came along, and it became like, well, now there's an official strategy guide. You can buy it and get all the stuff. Like the secrets are kind of gone, but you didn't have to buy the strategy guide. You could still go through that process and be on the internet and do this sort of stuff. And now it's a consumable item that you can do it cheat code style for $5 for 30, and like
for a series
I'll grant
that's
you
so
like
much about its fans.
Exactly.
Like, this feels so
for a series that's so entrenched, like something like Evolve, when it gets knocked for DLC, you're just like, well,
it's a modern, it's a product of a modern era.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like Mortal Kombat is a game that you would think is popular enough to sell numbers without being nickel and dime to death like this, and
especially like with such a core fan base.
Yeah, and it's like I like what's on the disc. Like if you ask me like hey, $60 for this, like review this. What do you think? Like it's cool. It has some issues. It doesn't hit quite as hard as the last game did. They made some improvements to the fighting, and that's great. But then it's like all this little stuff around it.
And you have to go out of your way to avoid it. Like you run into it at every single turn. Buy this, buy that.
And I couldn't believe the main menu with the shot of
it's fun.
And after you've already bought that stuff, that thing still stays
you're kidding, really?
there.
Because it leads to every bit of DLC.
Yeah, it just brings up the overall store. And so, like Mortal Kombat should be better than this.
Yeah.
It should be able to kind of stay above this kind of nasty stuff. But here it is, and it's a bummer.